USS Hake SS-256 was a Gato-class submarine in the United States Navy that saw action during World War II. Hake's keel was laid down by the Electric Boat Company in Groton, Connecticut. She was launched on the 17th of July, 1942, sponsored by Mrs. Martha Richards Fletcher, wife of Rear Admiral Frank Jack Fletcher, and commissioned on the 30th of October, 1942. The Gato-class submarines, with a top range of 11,000 nautical miles, closely mirrored the preceding Tambor and Gar-class designs. Their main differences included an increase in test diving depth from 250 feet to 300 feet and an additional 5 feet in length to fit a watertight bulkhead that split the single engine room into 2 compartments, each housing 2 diesel generators. Like most U.S. Navy fleet-type submarines of the Second World War, Gatos had a partial double-hull design, with a pressure-resisting inner hull sheathed by a hydrodynamic outer hull. The voids between these hulls contained fuel and ballast tanks. At both ends, the outer hull joined the pressure hull in the torpedo room bulkhead areas, thus the term partial double hull. Earlier, operational experiences convinced the Navy's Bureau of Construction and Repair that they had been overly cautious in their estimates of hull strength. So without altering the construction or thickness of the pressure hull steel, the Gatos were certified to operate routinely at 300 feet, marking a 50-foot improvement in test depth over earlier classes. The Gatos were slower to submerge compared to some German and British submarines, largely due to their significantly larger size. The increased hull size was necessary to carry enough fuel for 75-day patrols from Hawaii to Japan and back. Recognizing this inherent delay, the Navy incorporated a negative or down express tank that could be quickly flooded to provide additional negative buoyancy and accelerate the dive. Wartime experience showed that this tank was usually kept full or nearly so on the surface and then partially emptied once submerged to maintain neutral buoyancy. At the start of World War II, Gatos could go from surface to periscope depth in 45 to 50 seconds. The outer superstructure, which served as the main deck when surfaced, was free-flooding and filled with water when submerged. At the dive's onset, the ship would hang briefly as this superstructure filled. To address this delay, more limber, or flood, holes were added to the structure, allowing faster flooding. By mid-wear, this improvement, coupled with better crew training, reduced dive times to 30 to 35 seconds, quick for a ship of this size and satisfactory for the crew. The large size of these submarines did hinder both surfaced and submerged maneuverability, particularly when compared to smaller subs. Unfortunately, the limitations of the installed hydraulic systems that moved the rudder left no feasible remedy for this shortcoming. Despite this concern, the ship's turning radius was considered acceptable. After the war, several fleet submarines were fitted with an additional rudder topside at the very stern to improve handling. This class of submarines featured numerous crew amenities, including showers, air conditioning, refrigerated food storage, freshwater distillers, clothes washers, and bunks for almost every sailor, luxuries that were virtually unknown in other navies. The designers believed that if a crew of 60 to 80 men were to spend up to 75 days on patrol in the warm Pacific waters, such comforts were essential for both health and morale. These amenities could be added without compromising the submarine's combat abilities because of the large size of the fleet boats. Air conditioning, in particular, had an important practical role beyond comfort. When a submarine submerged for long periods, the heat from the engines, electronics, and 70 men quickly pushed temperatures past 100 degrees Fahrenheit. High humidity from tropical waters would quickly condense and drip onto equipment, leading to electrical shorts and potential fires. air conditioning, which mostly served as a dehumidifier, nearly eliminated this issue and significantly boosted mechanical and electrical reliability. This proved to be a crucial factor in the effectiveness of these submarines during the Second World War. Hake left for shakedown exercises off New London soon after commissioning, and after honing her crew and equipment to fighting condition, she embarked on her first war patrol from New London on April 8, 1943. Her mission was to hunt and sink German submarines in the North Atlantic, but she found no targets and arrived at Helensburgh, Scotland, to end her patrol on April 29th. She set out on her second patrol on May 27, 1943, off the Azores for more anti-submarine operations, but encountered few subs and returned to New London on July 17th. Newly reassigned to the Pacific, Hake left New London on the 25th of August, 1943 for San Diego via the Panama Canal. After a training period along the California coast, she sailed west to the Pacific on December 6th. Hake rearmed at Pearl Harbor and departed for her third war patrol on December 27, 1943. On January 11, 1944, she spotted the transport Nijitsu Maru en route to Japan, and after a day-long pursuit, she sank the ship the following day. Hake then continued to her assigned patrol area off the Philippine Islands, operating first off Luzon and later moving south to Mindanao. On the night of January 26, she attacked a tanker, damaged it, and then sustained considerable damage herself from depth charge attacks before making her escape. Hake's next encounter came on February 1st when she sighted 3 ships escorted by 2 vessels. After a flawless approach, she had the 3 targets lined up and fired a spread of 6 torpedoes, sinking 2, the Tacoma Maru and the Nanka Maru. Her attack caught the enemy completely by surprise, and she escaped without retaliation from the escorts. Hake then set course for Fremantle, Australia, where she ended her patrol on the 20th of February, 1944. Hake's 4th war patrol began in the South China Sea near Singapore, following her departure from Fremantle on March 18, 1944. She found her first target on March 27 off southwest Borneo, an unescorted tanker, a submariner's dream. 2 well-aimed torpedoes sent the ship, Yamamizu Maru, to the bottom. She then attacked convoy HI-55 during the night of April 1st, damaging several ships before clashing with escorts and continuing to search for more transports. On April 30th, she arrived back at Fremantle to end the patrol. During her 5th war patrol, which began on May 23rd, Hake was assigned to the area southwest of Mindanao. Her mission was to attack shipping and serve as a picket to warn American forces of the expected sortie by the Japanese fleet from Tawi-Tawi to the Mariana Islands. On June 8th, Hake sighted the destroyer Kazegumo and, after closing in for the attack, succeeded in sinking her. However, fierce counterattacks prevented Hake from sinking any of the accompanying destroyers. She managed to sink 2 transports on this patrol. The cargo ship Kinshu Maru on June 17th after 4 torpedo hits, and a heavily loaded troop transport 3 days later at the entrance to Davao Gulf. Hake returned to Fremantle on July 11, 1944. During this patrol, Hake also witnessed the loss of USS Harder. Post-war records indicate that the following is what happened.
Before dawn off Dassel Bay on August 24th, 2 ships were spotted, which Hake and Harder initially identified as a Japanese minesweeper and the 3-stack Siamese destroyer Fra Ruang.
The 2 ships were later discovered to be the Japanese Type D escort ship CD-22 and the very unusual destroyer PB-102, flying the Japanese flag. PB-102 was built in the United States and commissioned as USS Stewart, a Clemson-class destroyer, but she was damaged by Japanese fire during the Battle of Badong Strait. While under repair in dry dock at Surabaya in February 1942, the Japanese captured the airfield at Bali, thus threatening the naval base, and so the ship was scuttled at the docks early in World War II. The Japanese Navy discovered the wreck and raised, repaired, and recommissioned the vessel into Japanese service in 1943 as Patrol Boat 102. As Hake closed to attack, the destroyer turned away toward Dassel Bay. Hake broke off her approach, turned northward, and then sighted Harder's periscope about 600 to 700 yards dead ahead. Swinging southward to avoid a collision, Hake then sighted CD-22 about 2,000 yards off her port quarter swinging toward them. To escape the charging escort, Hake started deep and rigged for silent running. At 7:28 a.m., she heard 15 rapid depth charges explode in the distance astern, after which communication with the USS Harder was lost. She continued evasive action that morning, then returned to the general area of the attack shortly after noon. She swept the area at periscope depth, but found only a ring of marker buoys covering a radius of 1/2 mile. The vigorous depth charge attack had sunk Harder with all hands. The Japanese report of the attack concluded that much oil, wood chips, and cork floated in the vicinity. The United States Navy declared her loss on January 2, 1945. Hake departed for her patrol area off the Philippines on the 5th of August, beginning her 6th war patrol. During this mission, she engaged another destroyer, damaging it, but was largely unable to make further contacts due to the heavy air and surface patrols by Japanese forces. Hake arrived back at Fremantle Harbor on the 24th of September 1944. Departing on October 20th for her 7th war patrol, Hake encountered few contacts in her designated patrol area. Operating in conjunction with Hardhead and the ill-fated Growler, which was lost during the mission, Hake endured a harrowing 16-hour period from the 7th to 8th of November, during which nearly 150 depth charges were counted, and she sustained significant damage. On November 19th, Hake torpedoed the Japanese light cruiser Isuzu west of Corregidor, damaging its rudder. Hake was then tasked with a special mission off Panay Island, where she met with Filipino guerrillas to bring aboard 29 U.S. aviators who had been shot down in recent air raids. With her precious cargo safe, Hake returned to Australia, reaching Fremantle on December 16th. Hake left Fremantle on January 12, 1945, for her 8th war patrol. She spent nearly a month patrolling the South China Sea, which was by then almost empty of targets, before setting course for San Francisco, arriving on March 13th. After undergoing an overhaul, she left San Francisco roughly 2 months later to begin her 9th war patrol in the Pacific on July 20th, 1945. Hake served as a lifeguard submarine for airstrikes against Japan, and after the surrender, had the distinction of being one of only 12 submarines to witness the historic ceremonies aboard the battleship Missouri in Tokyo Bay. After the signing of the peace treaty, Hake began the long journey back to New London, traveling via the Panama Canal. She was decommissioned at New London on the 13th of July 1946 and entered the reserve fleet. Hake was reactivated on October 15, 1956, to serve as a reserve training ship for the 4th Naval District at Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Her designation was changed to AGSS 256, Auxiliary Submarine, on November 6, 1962. Hake continued her service as a training vessel for reservists in Philadelphia until she was struck from the Navy list on March 1, 1967, and subsequently sold. Hake was awarded 7 battle stars for her service during the Second World War. A great career for a great boat.